Hey everyone, it's Takuya here, and I wanted to test something today. Oh god damn, that's a fly. Just flew in my eye. Yeah, I'm probably sweaty. Forgive me. I literally just came in from outside doing yard work, so I'm like covered in grass and I'm all sweaty. Alright, purpose of today's video. Let's talk about Motorized. Everyone knows when it comes to Hearts of Iron that there's typically specific builds that you usually go for. The classic one that people usually use are infantry and tanks. Like, those are the two big ones. In multiplayer especially, people aren't usually using specialists. And Motorized, while useful in some scenarios, are not typically things that people focus on. But hey, this is single player, so what works against the AI? Germany is actually one of those really good examples, because if you look at the division that they got, their basic division is a classic 18 width. Good, all right? 18 width is one of the greatest standard basic things that you could have. It's going to be the thing that the majority of units are going to be using that are going to be solid from the very beginning. Motorized recon, engineer, support artillery. There is literally nothing wrong with this division. It is just a good, speedy division that once you break through with your tanks, you can launch these units up behind them. They'll be able to hold the line while the tanks continue to push. It's just good. But what if you didn't have the industry for tanks? What if instead your Motorized was your primary fast attack division? How would that actually look? Well, if you're looking at infantry, then the classic thing that people typically make it is you get the 7.2. 18 width and 20 width, none of this is a problem. Like, this is fine. Another great one that people do is 9.1s, where it's, 9 infantry battalions and 1 artillery battalion, but that doesn't pack nearly as much power. It has more defensive power, yes, and it's not using nearly as much artillery, but it's not going to be something that necessarily is capable of pushing as much. We can talk about combat width all you want in the future, but right now this is supposed to focus on Motorized. The big thing about Motorized is that they are fast and they are cheap. Trucks cost basically nothing to produce. And so when that's the only additional thing, along with some support equipment and a few artillery pieces, you're going to have a very fast unit that, depending on how you build it, can pack a decent punch. But if we're looking at a Motorized division, there are two ways that you can build it. Either you can build an artillery division. We can just go on and slap on 2 Motorized artillery, and boom, look at that. 122 attack, 15 hard attack. That's an increase by 50, and yet it still has an organization of 41. That is remarkably good. It is not expensive at all, and simultaneously it packs a decent punch. It's not like an amazing attack unit that has armor, so it's going to take less damage. It's still going to take a lot of damage when it attacks something, but it's going to be able to deal out a decent amount of damage too. Now, the other type of Motorized division that you could build, if we were just going to go ahead and duplicate this, we could replace this Motorized artillery with instead Motorized rocket artillery. Now, check this out. It costs only around 100 or so more production, but it simultaneously adds on 22 soft attack, decreases the hard attack a little bit, but it increases defense and breakthrough. It is slightly more expensive, but the real question is it actually worth the money? Here's where I'm going to make that argument. If you are comparing these two divisions, one that utilizes artillery and one that utilizes Motorized rockets, then at the very beginning of the game, these are better. The only thing that it really requires is researching the initial tech for Motorized artillery. The big thing that begins to change things and where people are going to start having an issue is that, technically speaking, artillery, as soon as you begin to upgrade it, is actually better than rocket artillery at first. But it's under certain circumstances. And here's what I mean. So check out the upgrades to this. Interwar Artillery increases artillery attack by 10%. It doesn't do anything in the way of Motorized rocket artillery. So boom, we get that. Now check it out. Soft attack of 130, soft attack of 147. This slightly increased because it still has the support artillery that's in it right now. So that means instead of a difference of 22, it's now a difference of 15. So it's getting worse. Then if you go ahead and get the next level of artillery, look, this gun has 30 soft attack as the base, whereas if you are looking at the base artillery, this one has a soft attack of 25. So, technically speaking, if we go into it now, then whoa, now soft attack of 144 versus 150. Now it's a difference of 6. But here's where things are really different, and this is where the math starts to get weird. Depending on your production, rocket artillery is still going to be better than Motorized artillery for a long time. Because check it out, we may now have the next level in tech, but unless your production is actually producing the towed artillery, if you have a dozen or so of these units out, or 24, or full army groups that are out, you're going to be missing a good several hundred or thousand artillery pieces, which means that your artillery may be upgraded, but simultaneously you're using the lower rank of artillery until you actually have the production to produce enough to replace it. Like, yes, motorized rocket utilizes 3 times as much as improved artillery, but once you start producing this at the very beginning of the game, and you just manage to max this out, you are going to be producing this as soon as it gets to a higher efficiency. You're going to be producing the same thing for the entire game. You are never once going to have to actually switch that motorized rocket artillery to something else, which means that your efficiency is going to get stupidly high. But let's say, for example, you get the equipment. You somehow do have the artillery. We're going to fast forward all the way to 1940, and we're going to go ahead and get that first level of rocket artillery. It doesn't do anything except allowing us to actually have towed rocket artillery. Just for the sake of argument, we add on 5,000 of the latest equipment of whatever it is that we have. Wait for a day to pass. All right, now look. 153 attack for artillery, 153 attack for motorized rocket artillery. So now it has the exact same soft attack. It actually has the same defense. It's got the same things, just less breakthrough. And yet it's cheaper. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Wait, I still have this on for the support artillery. If we go ahead and switch this out to support rocket artillery, that actually decreases the soft attack so that now your rocket artillery, just for a focus of this, has less power. So now this is our base for rocket artillery. Okay, we fast forward by a year. Artillery upgrade 2, rocket artillery upgrade 1. This increases all of our attack by 10%, but rocket artillery, this is where things start to get weird with the math. It increases things by 15%. So in 1941, we have 162 attack on the artillery, 159 attack on the rocket artillery. It's starting to catch up again, and simultaneously, it is utilizing the exact same equipment, but of course you're also needing to produce rocket artillery at this point if you're trying to do that. Fast forward by another year and we get the next level of artillery and also the next level of rocket artillery. But notice this, there's no additional artillery. You're not replacing the rocket truck with anything else. It just increases by 15%, increases by 15%. That's just static increases. When you get the 1942 artillery, in 1942, you are going to have so many units that are out in the field that you're not going to be able to replace the artillery very easily of all of your divisions that are out. Unless you're replacing just the artillery for your elite divisions, it's going to take a couple years to actually get it so that that artillery is making the difference that you're going to be seeing here just on the math by like that increase to 176. And now go forward another year, 1943, increases by 10% and then increases by a whopping 30% in 1943. Motorized rocket artillery increases by 30% attack in 1943. Now our artillery is 186, and the rocket artillery is 203. So while motorized artillery is initially seems like it kind of would be better in the beginning, in the long term, if you're just producing a ton of motorized rocket artillery, that is going to be doing exponentially more than your standard artillery would be. And it doesn't even end there. If somehow, for whatever reason, you're playing into the late game, like 1945, 1946, 47, etc., then the artillery, if you're looking at this, this doesn't get better. It stays at the 1943 tech. But on the other hand, rocket artillery, rocket engines increase by 5%. Rocket engines that are improved, another 5%. If you play all the way until 1946, that is an additional 5%. That means 15% more that you are getting if you play all the way till 1946. Now we're talking of a difference of 186 versus 219. There's a whopping 40% difference between this. Like they're not 40%, just 40. But like there's no competition with it. It's just better. And that's with only 2. If we were going to fully flesh these out, all right, 45 width, you got 15 battalions of motorized infantry, 5 battalions of motorized artillery. You're looking at 365 soft attack. Okay, for a grand cost of around 3,600 production. But for only 100 more production, you're looking at something like almost 100 more soft attack. If you do the same thing with motorized rocket artillery, this, for a fully fleshed out attack unit, is just better. But it doesn't end there. The stats of this may be better just on the ground. 40 organization, not bad at all. That seems very solid. But if we go over here to the mobile warfare doctrine, and if we say instead went, oh, well, look, we're going to get delay. We don't have any tanks. We're not doing any of this. So mobile infantry so we could get better recovery bonuses to our motorized units. Then boom, Mobile infantry, mass motorization, mechanized offensive. All right. Just everything over here that is going to be boosting our motorized units, right? Okay, we do all of that. We let a day pass. And while the soft attack didn't increase, our organization is now 80, which is ridiculously high. That means that unit would literally be able to fight forever. But it doesn't need to. That kind of high organization, you can instead trade this out for more soft attack. And now look at this thing. Now we have a 45 wit that still has 53 organization. It is 18 units of motorized infantry, and you got a good 9 units of motorized rocket artillery. That is a soft attack of 660. That will melt any unit that it goes up against. The only thing that it can't do is that this is not going to be able to really pierce anything. You will still need perhaps infantry or some of these divisions that are going to have anti-tank on it. Like, these will not be able to touch tanks at all. But for only using a stupid amount of trucks, one thing of rocket artillery that you have to actually produce, and then motorized rocket artillery, it only uses 180 motorized rocket artillery, which, if you've been producing that from the very beginning of the game, and you're at close to like 80, 90, 100% efficiency with all of the bonuses of late game production, you've been producing this the entire time on like 2 or 3 lines, you're going to have such a stupid amount of rocket artillery that that's not going to matter. If we were going to change this by one thing, just as a test to see what it would do, and we were going to switch this over to superior firepower, just a test. Go ahead and unlock all these. Between the two, honestly, we could take the more organization that comes up from this. This gives more soft attack for line artillery, which is nice considering how much we would have. Okay, let's test both of those. Let's test both of those, right? So we're going to go line artillery here, and we're going to look at what that does for just that 10% increase to any artillery that is in the line, like not support, and then shock and awe for extra bonuses. Okay, so we do that, let a day pass, 744. This will melt anything that it touches, but also that organization is really low. If we did the reverse, right? If we went down the other side. But okay, let's switch this off. Let's see, change that so we can go over to another one. All right, you do integrated support on the other hand. And now we're talking something that didn't really increase all that much. It's got 34 organization instead of 33, and it still has a ludicrous amount of soft attack, but it's not as big as the other one. I guess that really in the end, using superior firepower, despite adding on a lot of extra soft attack, just isn't really worth it. At least when it comes to this kind of mass artillery makeup, because you're going to run into a situation where your organization means that as you're pushing back onto the enemy, you're not really going to be able to push very far. You can get to that point very quickly, but you're not going to be able to go very far because your troops are going to run out of org so quick. You know, I need to run a test of this. I'm going to run a test in this. Next video I release after this is going to be me doing a run as Germany, and I am going to try and run a rocket artillery only game. I mean, basically a motorized rocket artillery game. We're going to do that. So make sure to like, to comment, to subscribe. Let me know what other kind of questions, other things you want to like test, anything else that you want to see in here, any tips, tricks, things for the game. Let me know down in the comment section below, and I will see you all next time. I hope you have a good rest of your days, guys.